It began with a video that should never have seen the light of day. In just a matter of hours, Isabella Ladera, a Venezuelan influencer once known only for her glamorous photos and stylish posts, found her private life dragged into the cruel spotlight of scandal. The clip spread like wildfire across social media, turning whispers into headlines and headlines into judgment. Isabella had built her image on beauty, elegance, and the promise of a bright future. But now, the same internet that had elevated her was tearing her down, one share at a time. The question on everyone's lips was not who she was, but what she had done. Yet beneath the gossip lies a darker truth. Isabella claims she never consented to this video being shared. She points to her ex-boyfriend, Colombian singer Beéle, accusing him of betrayal so deep that it left scars beyond repair. In an industry where privacy is fragile and loyalty is rare, how does a woman fight back against humiliation designed to silence her? This is not just the story of a leaked video. It is the story of trust broken, of love turned into weapon, and of a young woman forced to reclaim her dignity in the harshest of arenas. Before her name was tied to scandal, Isabella Ladera was known simply as a rising face of Latin beauty. Born and raised in Venezuela, she stepped into the digital age with the kind of confidence that made people stop scrolling. Her Instagram feed was a tapestry of sleek outfits, travel snapshots, and a charisma that seemed effortless. In a world where countless influencers fought for attention, Isabella managed to carve a space of her own. She wasn't a movie star or a singer. She didn't need to be. Her stage was the screen in your hand, and her audience grew by the thousands, then by the hundreds of thousands. To many, she represented a new generation of Latina women, independent, bold, and unafraid to express themselves. But behind the filters and the flawless photos was a young woman navigating fame's fragile promise. Social media can crown someone overnight, but it can also turn against them just as quickly. Long before the headlines, Isabella's story was about possibility, ambition, and the delicate balance between personal life and public image. Who could have predicted that the very platform that made her would also be the one that tried to destroy her? For a time, Isabella Ladera's life looked like the perfect Instagram fairy tale. At the center of it was Beéle, the Colombian singer whose smooth voice had already made him a star across Latin America. When the two appeared together, fans saw beauty and talent colliding, a couple that seemed destined for the spotlight. Their relationship played out not just in private, but in curated glimpses shared online. Smiling selfies, affectionate captions, and moments that made followers believe in love stories beyond the stage. Isabella, once seen only as a glamorous influencer, now stood beside a man whose music carried millions of streams. To his fans, she became the mysterious muse. To hers, he was the validation that her rise was real. But love in the age of social media is never simple. The same posts that inspired admiration also drew envy, speculation, and criticism. Still, Isabella and Beéle seemed untouchable, two young stars wrapped in a glow that few could break. No one outside their circle could imagine the cracks forming beneath the surface. And no one could predict that the very bond that once elevated Isabella would soon become the source of her greatest pain. It happened in the blink of an eye. One night, Isabella Ladera was just another influencer sharing glimpses of her life. The next, her name was plastered across headlines for all the wrong reasons. A private video, intimate, raw, and never meant for public eyes, surfaced online. Within hours, it spread like wildfire, whispered about in group chats, dissected on gossip pages, and replayed endlessly by strangers who knew nothing about her. The scandal was not just about a clip. It was about betrayal. Isabella accused her ex-boyfriend, singer Beéle, of being behind its release. The allegation shook fans, who struggled to reconcile the polished image of a rising star with the ugly reality of exploitation and revenge. For Isabella, it was more than humiliation. It was a violation of her trust, her body, her dignity. The internet that once celebrated her beauty now turned into a weapon, with millions judging her from a screen. And yet, amid the chaos, one question lingered like a shadow. Was this simply carelessness, or a deliberate act of cruelty that would change her life forever? When the whispers grew too loud to ignore, Isabella Ladera chose not to disappear. Instead, she stepped into the storm with a voice that was steady, though her world had been shaken. On her social media, she spoke directly to her followers, declaring that she was not complicit in the video's release. She called it what it was, a violation of her privacy and an act of betrayal that cut deeper than any headline could capture. Her words were not wrapped in anger alone. They carried pain, vulnerability, and the courage of someone who refused to be silenced. She reminded the world that behind every viral clip is a human being with dignity, with feelings, and with the right to consent. For many women, her statement echoed their own fears of exploitation, making Isabella not just a victim, but a symbol of resistance. Of course, her honesty invited more scrutiny. Critics dissected her every sentence, while supporters rallied with hashtags demanding justice. Yet through it all, Isabella held her ground. She was no longer just an influencer. She was a young woman fighting to reclaim control over her story, piece by painful piece. As Isabella's accusations gained traction, all eyes turned to Beéle. The Colombian singer, once celebrated for his soulful hits, now found his name tied not to music but to scandal. Fans waited for a statement, an explanation, even a denial, but what they got was silence. His social media pages stayed polished and distant, as if nothing had happened, while whispers about guilt and betrayal grew louder. The press pounced on the vacuum. Tabloids dissected the timeline of their romance, piecing together old photos and captions like evidence in a trial. Talk shows debated whether Isabella's claims revealed a darker side of the music industry, one where power imbalances often left women exposed. Supporters of Isabella painted her as a victim of revenge, while others questioned her motives. The more Beéle avoided the subject, the more the narrative spiraled out of his control. For every moment he stayed silent, Isabella's voice grew stronger. The scandal was no longer just a personal fallout between two ex-lovers. It had become a cultural flashpoint, forcing the public to confront uncomfortable truths about privacy, consent, and exploitation. The scandal soon grew beyond Isabella and Beéle. It became a mirror for society itself. On one side, voices rose in outrage, demanding accountability and justice for Isabella. To them, she was a symbol of countless women whose private lives had been weaponized without consent. Hashtags calling for respect and protection of women's privacy trended across Latin America, turning her pain into a rallying cry. Yet the digital court of opinion was not unanimous. Some doubted her claims, questioning whether the scandal was a bid for attention or revenge. Others, weary from the endless cycle of celebrity drama, dismissed it as just another headline. But underneath the noise, the deeper question refused to fade. Who protects women when intimacy is turned into entertainment? Legal experts weighed in, pointing to potential cases of revenge porn and violations of privacy laws. Activists urged authorities to act, warning that silence would only embolden future abuses. Meanwhile, Isabella remained in the crossfire, her name both defended and attacked, her face both pitied and ridiculed. In that storm of judgment, one thing became clear: this was no longer just her battle. It was a test of society's conscience. At the height of the scandal, Isabella Ladera stood at a crossroads. She could have vanished, swallowed by the shame others tried to impose on her. Instead, she became the face of a fight far larger than her own. Every interview, every post, every quiet act of defiance turned her from an influencer into a reluctant symbol, a reminder that dignity can be stolen, but it can also be reclaimed. The leaked video was the wound, but her response became the scar that told a deeper story, of betrayal, resilience, and the price women still pay when privacy is stripped away. Isabella's name may fade from trending lists one day, but the questions her ordeal raises will not. What does justice look like in a digital world where humiliation spreads faster than truth, and when love turns to cruelty, who truly bears the cost? For Isabella, survival was not about erasing the scandal, but about rising above it. For us, it is about remembering that behind every viral headline is a human being, fighting to be seen as more than a mistake. If her story moved you, share your thoughts below and subscribe to join us as we uncover more untold truths.